is author Ellie Alexander coming to you with a new 5 Things Friday. Today I'm answering 5 reader questions like Thomas or Carlos? Question number 1. Would you ever consider doing a crossover with Jules and Sloane? The answer to that question is absolutely yes. In fact, I did a little mini crossover, Trouble is Brewing, to introduce the new Sloane Krause series. In that little mini mystery, Sloane is here in Ashland and she comes down for a brew festival, and she and Jules of course hit it off because they both have this love of food and craft and artisanship, and so they solve a little murder together. Side note, that is also the hardest book I have ever had to write in my entire life. Because it was a short, it's only like 30,000 words I think, and trying to condense any sort of mystery into 30,000 words was a huge challenge for me. I would also in the future love to somehow bring them back together again, so I don't know, maybe. Number 2. Would you please, that's 3 pleases, write a Bakeshop cookbook? The answer to that is not in the short term. I am currently busy writing a Bakeshop mystery and mapping out the next Sloane Krause book, so I don't have time on my hands for a cookbook. However, I would definitely not rule it out as a possibility. It's something that I would love to do in the future. And for all you foodies and Bakeshop mystery recipe lovers, I am getting ready to build out a recipe section on my website, so stay tuned for that. And make sure you subscribe to my newsletter, because I try to always share something in the newsletter that is a recipe that has not yet made it into a book, so it's a great way to test something new. Number 3, do you have a favorite character in the Bakeshop series? Oh man, that's a bit like asking if I have a favorite child.
Wait, you don't have a favorite kid?
Every character that I write, I have some sort of attachment to, especially Jules as a protagonist, and Helen is modeled after my mom, so I love every character that I write, with the exception of maybe Richard Lord or some of the villains. That's definitely not me. However, from a writing perspective, I would say that my favorite Bakeshop character is probably Lance, and that's because Lance has such a distinct voice. Once I developed him as a character, he's so easy for me to write. When I sit down to work on a new manuscript, I just immediately know that Lance is going to be like, darling, love the outfit, love everything about it. So his words just flow and his voice is very solid in my head. So I'm taking the easy way out by saying that he's the easiest character to write. Number 4. Will Jules end up with Carlos or Thomas? Ha! Wouldn't you like to know? The answer is, I don't exactly know. And here's why. When I set out to write the Bakeshop Mysteries, and I was working on Meet Your Baker, the first book in the series, I had written Carlos, Jules' ex-husband, estranged husband, I should say. I had written him as just a very flat character. I thought he was going to be a toss-away person, and we were never actually really going to get to know him. And then I went back and I read the first draft of Meet Your Baker, and I realized that that didn't reflect well on Jules. I wanted to write a really strong female protagonist, which I feel like Jules is. And I think in part because her name is Juliet Montague Capshaw, and she's an artist. She's a pastry artist, she's ethereal, and she's also romantic at heart. That this sort of love triangle and her angst over where her love life is going has just added this richness and depth to her that I absolutely love. With Carlos, Jules has only been back in Ashland, even though we're multiple books into the series, for less than a year or two. So she has to figure herself out first. And as a writer, I love getting to explore who she is and explore those ideas of like coming home. Like when we come home again, if we've been somewhere else, are we ever the same? And how does home change? And can you be in love with a place and a person at the same time? So there are all of these layers. The other thing is, often I will sit down to work on a manuscript And in my outline for the book, Carlos isn't part of it. And somehow, as I'm writing, he just finds his way in. He's like tapping on my head and he appears on the page and then he takes over. So I don't think he's going anywhere, but it might be a little while before Juliet figures out her love life, because right now she's pretty content to just figure out herself. And I will promise that I will not drag it on forever. At some point, she will make a choice, but I don't know when. Number 5. Is there any chance that you will make Tort gear? Funny that you ask. Are you a newsletter subscriber? You should be. Thanks so much for joining me on another 5 Things Friday. I love answering your questions, so if you have other questions that you're dying to know, feel free to comment below, and also click the link to subscribe and hit the bell so you'll get updated anytime I share new videos. Happy reading.